All right, everybody, welcome to season 18 of Moonhawk Studios Presents. I am your host, Mac Paladin, and we've got a bit of an interesting setup here this week. I am attempting to simulcast to our old home at Talk Shoe, so, but it's not even the same place anymore, and I'm not going to go into the details of exactly
the
what
walls,
it looked like.
They moved the dead dog out of the corner.
Right. Yeah, they blew out the wall, right? All right, with me in the studio as always, though, is my good friend Adam.
So I see we haven't gotten any replacement theme music over the break.
Nah, I'm not a musician. The hell do you think this is?
I thought you were going to get something royalty free.
There was a thought about that. I've had issues. Which we'll cover in the news.
Sure.
Kevin is at MomoCon, so he's not here this week. But we do have Petty Fan on technicals.
Woo!
And the Galix is here.
That is the rumor.
Indeed. Now, assuming we don't have any catastrophic failures, and I'm knocking on the desk as we speak.
I was about to say, Murphy's podcast over here. Good Lord, man.
The podcast of Theseus as well, right?
Yeah.
But assuming that, that ship has already sailed. Anyway, we got a great show for you tonight. We got a great guest for you tonight. I will be working on getting royalty-free music, but without too much further ado, Adam, why don't you start us off with what's happening? The news. The words are hard.
You're turning into Petty Fan.
Yeah.
Anyway, as far as news goes, had a routine physical during the break. Everything is going okay. It's like it looks like my blood pressure's leveled off. And school. The school year is wrapping up today.
Oh,
or no, tomorrow. So that means I will be seeing more of my nephews and nieces. They are draining children. Anyway, that's my news for the break.
All right.
Penny, it's your go since Kevin's not here.
Yes, Petty Fan.
Righty. So we got our pool. It's been fun. Well, it's not really been super warm so far, so we've only been able to use it a few times, but the heat waves are coming. It is only May at time of recording. So come talk to me in July when I'm debating on broadcasting from the pool.
Oh, man.
We did fix our air conditioner. Turns out when my sister would clean the filter, she would let it run without the filter on, and there was caked on cat fur in the back of the radiator.
Oh dear.
Look, when we first saw it, I thought it was mold. I was like, oh god, we're gonna have to throw this out and drop another $1,000 on an air conditioner. But nah, it was just cat hair, luckily. So that's all cleaned out. So it is now nice and cool upstairs. And we are now, going to be no longer customers of DirecTV because we found a better deal. Instead of paying $180 a month for TV, we are going to be paying like $140. So, woo! Other than that, I got very distracted over both shows' breaks, and I might have forgot to stream some stuff on the Fragments channel because my ADHD sucks.
Oh my.
Yeah, that was my bad. Stuff happened. I'm real bad. But yeah, I think that's it on my end.
All right.
That means Golik's turn.
The Golics.
Unless he muted himself.
No, I'm here. I was just getting my thoughts in order. So over the Memorial Day weekend, my sister came up for a day, so that was nice. We got a chance to play Azul and talk to her and her boyfriend and stuff. And we actually had their dog for a couple of days because they were off visiting his family and then doing something else. I don't know. And then at the same time, we're on summer hours at work now, so I'll be getting out early on Fridays, which will be interesting because on Fridays I usually hang out with a friend after work, and he now doesn't get off work until 5 and doesn't get out early on Fridays, so will be interesting to find something to do for that hour and a half to 2 hours. I guess he gets out like 4:30 to 5, but anyway. And then video game wise, aside from the usual, continuing with Splatoon 3, and yeah, I don't think there was really a Scarlet and Violet event, so I also have on the Switch Online app, I've been replaying through Link to the Past because it was one of the ones that was available to get some platinum coins for playing, and also because it's been on my mind a bit since Naka and Ogre have been playing through it. And it's definitely a little bit different coming back to it as a much older person who knows more about how it works and like what's available and stuff. Like, I'm not trying to do stuff radically out of order, even though you can do most of the Dark Worlds in most orders. But like, if you do Thieves Town before the Skull Woods, which makes more sense geographically to me anyway, the Tempered Sword, which you could get after Thieves Town, makes a big difference in Skull Woods because it, like, you can take out the Wall Masters in one hit, and the Gibdos only take like 3 hits. And it does a lot of damage to the boss too, even though if you do a charged attack, you can't hurt the boss with it because that and the base damage of the final sword apparently do the same damage as floor spikes, which the boss is immune to. As a weird glitch. It is possible to do stuff out of order enough that you have the golden sword by that time. And then it's like, well, I hope you have enough magic to use your fire rod for the whole thing. But that's about all I've got, I think.
All right. Well, I guess that brings us to me. Obviously, we're experimenting with trying to bring this show back to Talk Shoe. I'm attempting to aggregate it further and wider. If you are tuning in through any of the podcasting services and listening to this, we do broadcast live on Wednesdays every season at 8 o'clock Pacific, and on Twitch, twitch.tv/Fragments of Silicon is our current home. Beyond that, it's been several months of me reconstructing my apartment and having just, general fun. And reacquainting myself with a service that I apparently never knew. But building the arcade room took an interesting turn as I started assembling the cabinet over the weekend, and the 100+ degree temperatures here in Tucson, combined with a lack of a proper wood cutting table,
Just break it over your
resulted
knee like a real man.
That was basically how it was going. But what ended up happening was, even though I measured twice and cut once, I ended up somehow making my perfect cut down the middle off by 3 inches.
Sounds about right.
Yep. So one side of the cabinet was longer than the other, and it didn't work. And Tippy, I don't know what the hell you're doing over there, but you need to stop that. He's like, what? My dumb cat is over here trying to get a old name badge that I have hanging on the wall back here as part of my nostalgia collection. He has suddenly discovered it and decided it was something he needed to play with.
Cats do be like that.
Yeah. During the break, I did finally get Tippy neutered. So that's why he's not howling during the podcast.
Hooray. It only took
Yeah, that was
thousands of years.
5, 4.5, something like that. Yeah, well, what happened was every time I would sit down to start recording, he would be fine. The instant we went live, he would be singing the song of his people in the back room. So that is no longer a thing. Now he's exploring everything and just sniffing things quietly. But yeah, the construction of the original bedroom and / gaming room is it's finally moving along. I was having a lot of trouble because between working long hours with rideshare and all that stuff, and just dealing with the general fallout of no longer having roommates, and then the water main explosion, all that stuff, it really set me back quite a bit. I think I've done 12 streams in the last 4 months. So it's been pretty rough. Aside from showing up for MSP during the power outage, that was fun. TEP shut off my power for non-payment. I fell out of the payment arrangement and didn't realize it, and so I had no power for 2 weeks. So I was sitting here on the phone trying to run a podcast with a battery-powered lantern and a gas stove that I picked, a gas camping stove that I picked up, so I could cook all of the food that was spoiling. That was fun. But now we're kind of sort of returning to some sense of normalcy. I have internet again, I have power, and we'll see how long that goes. And yeah, it's been a pretty wild ride. I got a Street Fighter 2 3-in-1 machine from 1UP. I was over at the new Bookman's location. They consolidated 2 stores into one large store at the top of Stone Avenue here in Tucson, and they had the 1UP arcade cabinet of Street Fighter 2 Championship Edition, Super Street Fighter 2, and Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, which I thought was interesting. It was an interesting selection. But I got that as kind of like the whole centerpiece of this. I have a line on a couple of different arcade machines to round things out. I picked up one of those officially licensed, I'm making air quotes with my fingers for those of you who are not on the visual side of things. But I picked up one of those My Arcade branded, officially licensed Atari consoles for $30 in store credit at Bookman's, and it's pretty neat. It comes with a little over 200 pre-installed games. It has 2 wireless controllers that have all the button configurations you could possibly need for the different Atari consoles. It has 2600 mostly, some 5200 games and some 7800 games, which not a great selection, but I can live with it. And it has some arcade games, which I'm trying to figure out how to make. They had a really cool classic game back in the day called Fire Engine, which, if you ever saw it in the arcade, the game came out in 1979, and in the late 70s, arcade upright games tended to be in black and white, and but it was a black and white screen, and you had dual steering wheels. So it was a mandatory 2-player game, and the front person would steer the front of the fire engine. And way back in the day, fire engines used to have a second steering wheel on the back, and so you'd have basically a guy riding on the back of the truck, steering the rear end of the truck so that it could make turns more easily. And so they made this really neat game where you're rushing to get to the fire, and it had controls for like extending the ladder, and you had the front and back steering wheels, and it was a really sophisticated machine for the time. And so they included that game in there, but I haven't figured out how to work it yet. Every time I press a button, it just says sorry. You'd think Canadians programmed it or something, right? Sorry. But it also has like Centipede and Millipede and some other arcade style games. So as part of the whole Arcade Anarchy feature I'm developing for my own channel, it is actually a good piece to have. And of course, I got controllers for my MVS Mini, which is the quote unquote officially licensed Neo Geo console, being currently released by Visco, I think is the company that currently distributes SNK based stuff. And I'm pretty happy with that because, again, I got them for trade credit, so I didn't spend any real money. Not that I have any real money to spend these days. And so I've got that as part of the Arcade Anarchy collection. I got a PlayStation Mini, which has some arcade style games, such as it has some driving games. It does have some RPGs that I will probably hook up to an actual capture card to play, like Final Fantasy VII and the original Wild Arms. It has what is it? Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo. And a few other things that, while the selection is somewhat limited given the largesse of the original PlayStation library, it's actually a pretty comprehensive cross-section of games for the 20 that you get. In other words, there's no real duds in there. They're all pretty good. So I was pleased with that acquisition. And then I have these little handheld boxes that have things like 400 NES games on them, and so I've got Contra and Super Contra, not to be confused with Super C, the US version that is actually harder. One of those rare instances where the US version of a game is harder than the Japanese version. So I'll be using that to stream to TikTok and Reels and Shorts and wherever it is that they'll allow me to do that kind of thing. And then I'm still working on the whole vintage machine for some of the older PC games and stuff like that. But that'll be the final piece in that room, and then that'll all be set. And other than that, it's just been cleaning up and resetting my backyard and all that good stuff, and trying to settle into a routine again. So, for the moment, that's pretty much it. There's going to be some talk in the coming days about the next iteration of the Starship Moonhawk webcomic, whether or not I'm going to be continuing the animations as is or starting over again, artists that I'll be working with going forward, and so on and so forth. But right now I don't have anything comprehensive to talk about as far as like features or anything like that. So I don't want to say anything too prematurely because I'm just now getting into the position to where I can even talk about that kind of stuff again. One thing I will have to do is if I'm going to seriously simulcast on multiple services, now that the terms of service for Twitch allow that kind of thing, is I'm going to have to pay off the balance on my old bill and get Cox Cable reinstated because the upload speeds on Verizon sadly are not sufficient, and there's not really anything they can do about it unless I move.
The way cellular internet works, you're just not going to have good upload. It's mainly meant for downloading. Like if Grandma wants to watch Netflix, it's fine with that. But if I had tried T-Mobile's broadband thing, it just was not enough upload bandwidth for me to run fragments with.
Yeah, and that's just running to one channel so that way we don't have pixelation. Mm-hmm. I would need. I'm figuring that I would need at least their 300 megabit service. I don't know if I necessarily need Gigablast, but I may end up going with it again, just to make absolutely certain.
Doing audio only, you could probably handle the 300 fine because that's what I run for fragments with no issues.
Yeah, but with multiple streams with video and all that, probably going to end up with Gigablast again. The thing that I don't necessarily know if I need to do is pay for the extra $50 of unlimited data, and this is where
yeah,
and this is where I'm of two minds on this, because I'm actually going to keep the Verizon service. Because I can stream unlimited TV on that. And that was one thing that was hogging our bandwidth when I had roommates, was the fact that one of our roommates was basically sitting around 16 hours a day just
streaming shit.
Watching streams at 1080p. And that was eating up a considerable amount of bandwidth. Each of the individual podcasts and streams was about 1.5 gigabytes of our 1.25 terabyte limit. So we'll see what happens if I start using Restream to multi-stream. I will be using my phone largely for TikTok because that's going to be the meta is basically people just setting up their camera phone in front of their TV and playing NES games. There's a few people who are actually using the live studio to play like these monstrously difficult games that are basically like ROM hacks of Super Mario World and stuff like that. And these people are like usually power players with speed running cred that have these elaborate custom arcade joysticks for this process. I was even watching this one guy who all of his directional buttons, and I'm making a gesture with my hands here, but all of the buttons, including the directions, were literally just laid out like where you rest your fingertips. It was a very interesting. He had a hand camera, and it was rather interesting. But that's for those people who are playing those those masochistic individuals who are playing those sadistically hard power stunt games is what I like to call them. There is a name for the genre, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. Petty fan is typing.
Yeah.
Oh, is something going wrong or what?
Just you're kind of meandering a bit.
Oh. Well, anyway, that's it for that.
Yeah, we do have a guest that we want to talk to.
Yes.
Do you though?
All right. Without any further ado, let's move on. We've got James. Hold on a second. We've got James Ronald of Epic Game Music on the podcast. James, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me on.
All right. So tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're up to.
All right, so this might be kind of a long list here, so get your pens out and get your pads out.
Test will be later.
Yeah.
Yeah. There will be a quiz later. There will be a quiz, but we have prizes.
Exactly.
There will be punch and pie.
Yes. Church of England, cake or death.
So the first thing I do is that I run a YouTube channel called Epic Game Music, where I do covers of video game music, and I make music videos for them, which I shoot here in Toronto. I go out and film in the scenery we have going on here. The second thing I do, see, we're already on the second thing. I'm in a band called Rex Viper with James Rolfe and a bunch of other people. It's sort of like a super group that we formed over the pandemic.
Oh, wow.
And I also, third thing, I write music for video games. That's my day job. And the fourth thing is that I stream on a Twitch channel called Meme Mansion. And so that's some of the many things I do. The many hats that I put on.
So just for clarity here, that is the James Rolfe, the angry video game nerd.
Yes, one and the same.
Wow, I did not fully expect that connection.
Yeah, no one does.
That was definitely on my bingo card, but
there you go.
But it was in the corner, so I didn't notice it right off the bat. There, that is outstanding.
Yeah.
All right. So tell us a little bit about some of these shows.
Which thing do you want me to go first on?
Adam, why don't you get the specifics here? Let's start something formal here.
Yeah. Well, I suppose if we're starting formally, we should start with the day job.
Yeah.
In the what sort of video game music do you make, and who do you make it for?
So it's indie games. Sometimes I get larger contracts where I'm part of a larger company, but that's not as fun because if I'm doing indie games, it's just me, and it's I'm sort of in control of what I can do with the client. It's kind of strange. I have trouble with fighting games, but it seems to be that's my main genre that I write music for. So when I'm writing music for them, I have to watch other people play games and sort of be like, okay, well, that's sort of like the ebb and flow of how people play fighting games well,
Something I know nothing about either. I've got a Street Fighter 2 machine sitting in my closet right now, ready to go for streaming, and I am going to lose every match.
Yeah, exactly. I've tried my entire life to be good at Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, even Smash. I buy every Smash game just thinking, this will be the one. I'm going to sit there for 10 hours a day and try it, and I just can't do it.
I can at least execute the moves in Smash. I still have about a I don't know. I have a very imperfect record on actually pulling off Hadokens, and that's like the easiest motion.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe that's it. Like, it's just you have to have that precision of just, you have to commit to those complicated moves like each time, even if they're simple.
Yeah, the secret to being good at Street Fighter 2 is to pick Chun-Li.
What, and then just spam
Yeah,
or spam whatever her kick is?
Exactly. Or E Honda if you
Just give him the wall of hands.
yeah, the 100 hand slap.
Yeah, that's a lot of hands.
Like, well, I suppose we should inquire as to like specifically what fighting games have you scored?
Right now, I'm working on Burning Souls. That's the one game I can talk about right now. There's two that I am under NDA and I can't, but I will be able to say
NDAs before the show. Good job.
Yeah, exactly.
you laugh, but we've had to have episodes, let's say, modified because somebody forgot their NDA.
Oh, yeah.
It was specifically somebody broke somebody else's NDA.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
The worst
That's
kind
trouble.
of fuck up.
Yeah. Yeah, don't worry. I have a little notepad here that says, don't talk about this
until X date.
Yeah, exactly.
It is not X date.
I definitely do not have a red X on that number.
But yeah, then I a bunch of platformers. Oh wait, one more fighter. I guess it's a fighter. It's like a side scroll or what's that genre called? Like
a brawler.
A brawler. There you go. Yeah.
Beat 'em up.
Takeover. Beat 'em up. That's also another good
McMuscles fighter.
Yeah. Little V Mills is on that. Koshiro's on that. Yeah, that was cool because it was very collaborative that you have so many people working on the music for different things.
I'd imagine. And I suppose my next question is, how did this all get started?
Getting into writing video games? Or writing for?
Video game music in general.
Yeah.
Since it's so much of your career.
Yeah, because like the YouTube thing where I'm doing covers sort of like led to the writing for video games. But yeah, how that got started was I was early on in YouTube when YouTube first came out, and I was making, whatever music videos, just original things, and just, making sort of Mystery Guitar Man type content. And then I think I did a Mega Man cover, Mega Man 3 Wily's theme 2. But yeah, so and I put that on there, and there was a big reception to it. I was like, wow, there's other people who like video game music as well. And so, that got me going down a rabbit hole of being like, oh, well, there's other people making covers, and there's, this whole huge community out there. And so I was like, okay, well, this is now my thing. I'm just jumping headfirst into this, and I kind of never looked back on that one. It's like I've been doing Epic Game Music for over 10 years now. There's 500 episodes. Or 500 music videos, I should say.
That's a lot of music videos.
Yeah. Oh, there was a long while where I was doing it each week. Like years, I would do it each week, and that sort of burnt me out drastically because I was working full time and doing that.
How long ago was that?
That I was doing each week.
Yeah.
I think I stopped maybe a year before the pandemic, I think. Yeah, and then the pandemic sort of like because it was harder to get around in the city, so that sort of like slowed my progress a lot. And then I had a kid, and then writing music for video games and stuff like that. So like so many things happened that I was like, okay, I need to like pull back on something.
So I suppose that begs the question: how often do you put out an epic video game cover music video these days?
There's one coming out on Friday, but it appears to be every month or two. But I sort of have a different like flow to it now, because I'll put out an entire album of something like, let's just say, like lo-fi snowboard kids or something like that, and that I don't have to concentrate on the music video as much. It can just be like a waveform because someone's using like the lo-fi to relax, and it doesn't have to be too visually stimulating. So that takes the pressure off a lot, and also I can make a whole album worth of content very easily.
And do you have a snowboard kid doing homework in the background?
I wish I was trying to get the budget to commission someone, because that would have been so good. But no, I just asked this other YouTuber for their footage, and I'm just like, all right, I don't want to play the entire game perfectly, so can I? Your footage is great. Can I just use yours?
And I imagine they said yes.
Oh, of course, yeah. Under conditions that I flash their channel name every here and there on the screen, and I was like, all right, well, that's fair enough.
Yeah. Like, I gotta admit, I am curious as to what a lo-fi version of Snowboard Kid sounds like.
Yeah, well, you can check it out on YouTube or Spotify or Apple Music, any streaming platform, and just search lo-fi snowboard kids or search Epic Game Music.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But I note here that you've also so have you done music for game theory, or is this just cover stuff?
I have. There was some. The more recent one is I did music for the final episode, but the section that I was working on got cut because, like, clearly that was a huge production. There was also some. Let me see. Oh yeah. Do you remember the show on Game Theory, Crossover? It was done by Trailer Drake.
Drawing a blank there.
Okay, yeah, that's mad old school. I did the theme for that. And there was some other things, like I've been commissioned by them to make covers for specific things, such as like there's a full food theory theme, and the person who wrote the song "Foot of a Ferret" didn't have the time to make a full one, so they came over and asked me, and I'm like, hell yes, I would love to do that. And I think the same thing with film theory as well. It was the same type of situation where, they just needed something longer.
I don't really have anything to add to that, since it seems fairly straightforward.
Yeah.
Right. But now, how did you end up collaborating with the Angry Video Gamer?
Yeah, so that is a good question. So I would go to this convention called Too Many Games, and he would also be a guest there, and I talked to him about like music and stuff like that at the parties, and we got along pretty well. So that'd be a yearly thing that we'd run into each other. And so, yeah, we got talking through email, and he would need music for the AVGN or some other Cinemassacre thing, and he'd reach out and ask me. So this all started as more of a professional type thing. And then, as we talked and got to know each other, when the pandemic happened, he asked me, it's like, hey, do you want to help me with a cover of Mighty Wings? And I was like, sure. because the new Top Gun movie was coming out at some point. And so we had the idea of mixing it with Street Fighter because like they have very similar sounds to them, very similar melodies.
Mm-hmm.
And so then we thought, okay, well, let's get our friends involved. And it was online friends. So, because he lives in the States and I live in Canada, and then people live all over for this, so it's very hard to pull off. But it was very much an online thing that kept us going for the pandemic. And so, yeah, it just started as a one-off, and then it became a band. And now we go sometimes when we play shows at conventions and stuff like that. And it's crazy how many people show up to see us play. It'll be like 600, 700 people sometimes. And it feels like we sort of like skipped that part of being in a band where you play for like 5 people, but at the same time, it's hard to get that growth when you're not in the same region, and you can't practice constantly, so we have to show up a week before a show and just practice.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And I'm presuming that at some point you've actually all got together and performed in the same place?
Yeah. So we've played Too Many Games a couple of times. We played Portland Retro Gaming Expo. And there's one other one in there, and we have some more shows coming up in future, but I can't talk about that quite yet. But yes, stay tuned on that.
And I suppose it's worth, yeah. And I suppose it's worth asking the actual composition of the band, like who plays what.
Okay, so James Rolfe plays the rhythm guitar. I play lead guitar. My friend James Harding is the lead singer. And there's already 3 Jameses right now, if you're keeping track. I don't know how that happened. It just did.
I blame the English language.
Yeah.
Could get meta with it and call it the Triple Mr. J's.
I know there was many
Seeking another
ideas
James for a band. If you can also play drums, that's a bonus.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see, our friend Bradley Conklin plays drums. On the bass is Adam Shube, aka Square Painter. I don't know if you're familiar with his pixel art stuff.
Not a fan. And
then Dino from Cheap Dinosaurs plays the keys. And yeah, that's the makeup of the band.
And do you play like video game music, or do you play, like rock and roll? What's your speed here?
So yeah, it's a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B. So they're all like 80s covers of 80s songs, like smashed together with video game music. So there's always a twist to it, We let's see, what other ones did we do? So yeah, Mighty Wings mixed with Street Fighter, and there's some Punch Out in there also for some reason. And then sorry,
I guess because it's Punch Out.
Yeah, exactly, because it's awesome music. Why not? Yeah, so it's a thing we do for fun. So we just throw as many things at the wall and just see what sticks. And then even if it doesn't stick, we make it stick, I
mean, you seem to be fairly popular.
Yeah.
Given, it's like, I'm not exactly sure what the barometer of success is, but you've got hundreds of people showing up to see you.
Yeah.
That's certainly some kind of success.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah.
Anyway, so in terms of the different musical subsets of your career / hobbies,
Yeah.
let's say, like, do you find one easier to do? Like, are they all that different?
Well,
Basically, how do you make sure that they don't all blend together?
yeah, that is very hard because they're all very similar and they mostly all involve music, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like probably the easiest workflow that I've developed is the YouTube videos, because I've just been doing it for so long, and I found ways just doing the weekly thing of just how to make music quickly and easy, like how to work at the speed of thinking, sort of, so I don't have to sit there and be like, how do I do this? I just can think it and I can do it, the Rex Viper thing is a little bit harder because there are so many people and we're not in the same place. So it's ideas move slower because it's like broken telephone,
Mm-hmm.
And then so as far as like writing music for video games, that's collaborative in the sense of, I'm hired by someone to bring their vision to life, and that's kind of tricky because a lot of the clients aren't musical, so it's very challenging sometimes to get what's in their head, because music is so subjective. And but yeah, so that's fun though. It's sort of like problem solving. And then as far as the streaming I do, that's usually just, playing video games. That's just relaxing. That's purely just chill it out and playing whatever video game I want to.
So, in terms of the streaming field, that's just relaxation and, not anything professional, I guess is the word to be using here.
Yeah, well, we do take, because I do it with my buddy, and we do take it really seriously, but it hasn't reached a point where it's stressful yet. If we don't fear about messing up or playing the wrong game or something, or we have to play Call of Duty, or we have to play like some crazy ROM hack thing. We can just play whatever.
You're not worried. Yeah. You're not worried about your numbers or sponsorships or anything of that nature.
Yeah, exactly. Where the rest of the stuff I do all involves that in some way, some sort of numbers going up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Like, it's something that we hope to achieve one day.
Mm-hmm.
Like, anyway, so this may be a tough question to answer, but
sure.
What do you prefer making, the original music or the video game covers?
That's a good question, because I find as far as what's easier or harder to make, original music is easier because the video game covers, people have an expectation, and they hold video game music very dearly, or maybe the specific video game, that's their favorite video game and that's their favorite song. Whereas if you don't do it justice, or you don't like leave in some part that they really like, people get very, very upset sometimes. And which, shouldn't affect you too much, but it does, it can't not, when you see people freaking out about something, you're like, oh, okay, what did I do wrong here or whatnot? Whereas the original music, it doesn't have to sound like anything because I'm making it now,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm.
And have you run into any sort of trouble, let's say, in the course of your covering video game music?
Like trouble
Yeah.
as in like content IDs or like
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. Yes.
Somebody who
but
didn't like the cover, that's also a factor.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, and both, yeah.
Oh.
I can't think of anything too specific. Okay. I once did, and this is early on because I was just trying to get like some sort of viral thing. I did the Legend of Zelda theme in farts.
Oh no.
And they were just arm farts that I edited, but the video looked like I was playing farts, and there was a lot of Zelda fans that were not happy about that, and like it wound up on a subreddit somewhere.
Oh dear.
Which really brought a lot of people over. So
for better or for worse.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was one of those mixed feelings on that one. So yeah, that's the first time I felt like a huge backlash. Then I was like, all right, well, maybe I should like think about something before I do it.
Dial this back a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe I'm going a bit nuts with it.
I'm like, I suppose it begs to ask how mad they got, because when people get mad on the internet, they tend to do things that range from the obnoxious to the downright criminal.
Yeah. I've seen a lot. Like some people were going after my email, being like just writing like lewd crazy things. Like that's as far as it got. No one's ever like called my phone or something like that or go to where I live. But I know people who that's happened to them.
Yes. I got in the early days on Talk Shoe. I actually we got raided by a hate bot, and they started calling my phone.
Oh wow!
Yeah, like immediately. We were not even 5 minutes into the show, and I was getting people in chat going, "You going to answer that?"
Wow.
Because they could hear it ringing, and because it was sitting next to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know all about that.
Yeah, that's the dark side. Like people get really creative too with stuff like that. Like as you just said, like trying to get your number and stuff like that. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no one's ever like crossed too much of a line. So that it's just been comments and mass directed hate. But that's something you just have to deal with. You have to just view it and then unpack it, or just delete it all or something. Just block people.
Internet.
Yeah.
I'm like,
exactly.
I mean, as long as you didn't get doxxed or anything.
No, not that far yet. No, what I said yet.
I mean, that is an important word to use within this context.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You never know when you awaken some fan base, and all of a sudden you're getting, threats over multiple channels.
Yeah, exactly.
You did something or didn't do something or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
or you could do like I did 20 years ago and end up on Fandom Wank.
What is Fandom Wank?
Oh God damn it, Mac!
It's nothing worth recounting.
Okay.
It's now an insignificant blog that used to be a big thing where trolls and in the days before Reddit, it was a place that people would go to talk about drama between creators on the internet.
Oh, okay.
It's hard to believe that was
Encyclopedia Dramatica.
Yeah. Yeah. It was more like, 4chan and 8chan and all that stuff before the collapse.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Okay, I see.
Like, now, have you ever been approached to score anything in the AAA sector?
Let me think how I can answer this.
Ooh, complicated.
It's complicated. Yeah, let's just leave it at that. But like I have, I work sometimes on larger projects, but that's like you're not very high up in the pecking order because there's like a whole team of people. So you're doing something very specific, you know what I mean? So nothing of note.
I do.
Yeah.
Like, unfortunate, but so it goes sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. There was one thing that it's not a AAA title, but it came down to like who was going to get the gig, either me or this other guy, and the other guy got it, and I was like, oh damn, I was so upset. And then I looked at who got it, and this guy has like 2 PhDs in music and all this other shit. And I was like, wow, I was neck and neck with that guy. Okay, I feel less bad now. You know what I mean? Like that's sort of a compliment, you know.
I suppose so.
Mhm.
Like, but I suppose another question, if you can answer it, is how does what is it like in terms of collaborative spirit when it comes to a professional work, like scoring a bigger size video game versus doing the video game 80s tribute band?
Yeah. So as far as scoring a like a larger video game and stuff like that, like that's a little bit of pressure because although it is easier to write the music, you just have to think about how it's going to land. Like if, let's just say you've made a town area, does it feel like a town area? Is someone who hasn't is someone who's playing the game for the first time, like how are they going to feel about it? So it does have that pressure because you're working on it and you've heard the song so many times that you're just so used to it, you don't know how it's going to feel after a while, and you just have to you just kind of have to make it up of how someone's going to think about it. So there could be a lot of revisions from the client after like game testing, and you sort of have to make a workflow based around that, knowing that you might come back and have to change something drastically. But that is more money. But still, it's like, this makes this that much harder because I thought that was perfect, you know? Versus the 80s sort of rock cover band thing, where that's sort of like competing ideas, you know? Some of our covers get very long because sometimes we don't say no, because, we'll just keep on adding sections and sections. But it does lack that pressure in the sense that we don't really have to think about how the end product is. We're just sort of doing it in that respect. But yeah, we have to think about how someone else in the band is going to take it, like if we are like, okay, maybe we should cut like 2 minutes off this song, and they'll be like, oh, but I really liked it. It's like, okay, well, fine then. The song is now 10 minutes.
Like, now, do you do any sort of music work outside of video games?
Yeah, so some Twitch channels, YouTube channels, clearly, with the Angry Video Game Nerd and Game Theory. I don't know if y'all know Rerez.
Sounds
I know
vaguely
Reread.
familiar. Yeah.
Okay. Let me think what else. Yeah, a bunch of YouTube channels over the years. There are some podcasts that I've done themes for. Yeah, that's basically my wheelhouse. Video games, Twitch channel, YouTube. Especially with the YouTube, because the audience retention is something I think about when doing music. So I already, since I have a channel, I already have a good grasp on that, on how music can help that. So that's definitely a plus, you know.
Yeah, it's
Right.
it's always one of those things. Like to quote another content creator, you know, the internet has really, really gone downhill since MySpace went offline, especially for music.
Oh yeah. Yeah, music is so competitive and there's just so much of it out there that you really have to like there's really a lot of pressure out there, you know, to like keep people on your content, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm not sure if this is something you can talk about, but have there been any jobs where things didn't go, let's say, 100% right?
Yes, but I'm trying to think of like a good example of that.
Mhm.
There was one because like normally you want someone to send you a reference track of how they want it to sound or what mood. But when people don't necessarily have a musical language, you know, it's very hard for them to describe it. So there's definitely a time where it was like just revision after revision and almost totally rewriting stuff, which gets kind of frustrating, but we got it to a point where they were happy. But it definitely like dragged on a lot, you know.
Yeah, and then you got people like me who are weirdly specific. Like, well, I'd like something very Jerry Goldsmith esque from, say, Star Trek, or maybe going back to the '70s, like MacArthur. But also, if you could mix in the flamenco guitar from the opening of Martian successor Nadeshiko.
See, that's perfect. See, I would know exactly what to do in that case, you know.
Yeah, and
Also,
then
challenge accepted.
Yeah. we actually worked with another composer, David Stahl, and he put forward a theme song for an overture, if you will, for a short film that we were working on called Survivor.
Ooh.
And it's in the Starship Moonhawk vein. My anime inspired sci-fi series, and we got some great voice talent to work on this and all that. And David Stahl actually is part of the John Frizzell music group. He worked with John Frizzell, who, you know, of course, worked on Gettysburg and Gods and Generals and many other really big projects. Did a lot with Turner and stuff like that. But Frizzell is, of course, most famous right now for the Queen's Gambit, because you got that. When did they get they got an Emmy award, didn't it, for music? Anyway.
Yeah, that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, and so David wrote this piece, and I believe I have it on my YouTube channel right now. But it was like this soaring military march that ended on a melancholy note, and I was like, perfection. Chef's kiss. And I gave him a description like that. Like I gave him some reference pieces, and it was just but we need to talk.
Yeah, for sure.
We definitely need to talk because I've got stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's it for the aside there. I just wanted to share that because it was topical to the moment.
Yeah, for sure. Some people say stuff like, "Oh, can I have it more airy?" And it's like, I think I know what that means, but like, please describe it further. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a good adjective for music.
Yeah, I know. Or like people are just grabbing whatever words they can. You know what I mean?
It's like if you could just make it a little breezier, if you could make it a little breezier and upbeat, just jazz it up a little bit. And it's like, hold on, hold on, that's two completely different things.
Yeah, those were many words.
Yeah.
Start with one.
Yeah, let's start with the ones that actually have musical connections. And work our way from there.
Yeah.
It's like, I want Fosse, Michael Graham, Madonna, and I want you to keep it all inside. Thank you, the Birdcage. Thank you, Robin Williams.
Anyway, so to bring things full circle, let's get back to Burning Soul. So what's the soundtrack for this 3-on-3 fighter supposed to be?
Oh, sorry, you cut out for a second there in my headphones.
Is this going to be a fairly typical fighting game soundtrack? Very blood pumping, once again, Street Fighter, King of Fighters, all that stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Or is this something different, given that this looks like a kind of a different fighting?
Yeah, so it is quite different. In many ways, it does have that energy to it because you have to. It's a fighting game. But my trick for this one was, I would look at how people are playing fighting games, how often the matches turn over. And so I have this rule in the music of how often the music will change. Every 10, 15 seconds, it's something new. So it feels like a movie where, when the tables turn, it sounds like it's, the theme to that, like the music sounds like it's written specifically for that match. So there's always something new, but as far as style, the music really matches the visuals. Like there's one that's like a sort of like a circus pier type of thing, and that's like very, very funky and has a lot of like saxophone, and a lot of keys. And then there's one that's supposed to be this village in the middle of the desert, and it's very sort of Spanish guitar and flamenco, but it has this sort of like to counteract that. It sort of has these metal drums and this metal rhythm to it to keep it flowing, to keep the match going. And I think the song that's a departure the most is there's one that's lo-fi because they asked for it. They said, okay, here's your challenge. This is supposed to have a lo-fi fighting game feel. And I'm like, okay, well, that's fairly tricky. But I made it work. But using that trick where sort of the music sort of rotates every 10, 15 seconds, I had to do that more rapidly so people wouldn't, fall asleep or get bored or something, So yeah, those are the major differences from a regular fighting game.
Also, now you mentioned about seeing people play fighting games, but this is a fighting game that's very much in development, right?
Yeah.
So, how do you apply that principle to something that's apparently like in the alpha stage or something like that?
Yeah. So I'll see what footage that does exist. And of course, viewing the backgrounds helps, but I'll look at other fighting games and I'll time, what's going on, when things turn around and stuff like that. So it's just fighting games in general. And also, there's different skill levels, so you have to think about that too. How this music is going to be perceived on someone who is just amazing at it versus someone who it's their first time playing a fighting game ever. And with the internet, luckily, there's a wide array of footage of all of that. You know what I mean? People just upload everything. Yeah, good or bad,
Look at this podcast, Wade.
Hey now.
No self-deprecation. Right. All right. So I think I've run through my questions. I'll see if anyone has anything further for you.
Sure.
I think I'm good.
No, I think I'm pretty clear on that. Anything the standard here, of course, is to always ask, do you have anything coming up that you'd like to promote, or anything in the immediate foreseeable future, appearances, et cetera, that you want to let everybody know about?
Sure. So there'll be a new Epic Game Music out on my YouTube channel on Friday, probably closer to midnight. And Rex, as far as Rex Viper, we're working on a new album, and that should be finished by the end of the summer, as well as we have a show announcement coming up. But I can't say it quite yet. Let's see what else. Meme Mansion. This Saturday, I'll be playing a video game. What video game? I forget which one I said I would play, but I will definitely be playing that one. Yeah. So I think that's all I have to plug right now.
It's like that part from the movie Major League where Bob Euchre is going through the different pieces of paper on the desk. He's like, post game is brought to you in part by Christ. I can't find it. The hell with it.
We already took your money. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, James, it was really nice talking to you, and we're definitely going to have you back on the show when your next big thing drops, so we can talk about that, especially once these NDAs have cleared, so that way you can get an opportunity to talk about that and give a little gratuitous self-promotion.
Yeah, please. I want to talk about these things so badly. You have no idea.
You're going with self-promotion, not self-violence.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Keep in touch with Adam, and we'll figure out something on the schedule.
For sure. Yeah. Thank you very much for having me on.
All right.
No problem.
All right. So that brings us to the entertainment segment, of course. Adam, what's going on? We don't have Kevin. We don't have Kevin here to bray into the wind, so.
Which is a shame, because if he were here this week, he'd be talking all about MeToons TV. But since he's not here, we don't have to talk about that. It's basically It's basically, think 35 years ago Cartoon Network, or maybe 30 years ago Boomerang. It's basically a new network with a lot of old cartoons. Mind you, what constitutes an old cartoon these days may have some people feeling creaky, because that includes Freakazoid, a cartoon from the 90s.
I think I feel my body becoming dust.
I feel like Freakazoid dated itself by approximately the date that each episode came out, but...
Just keep in mind that 1994 was 30 years ago.
Right. which is why some people have been looking at this and been posting that aging meme. You know, the one with, I want to say, Matt Damon turning into an old man.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm like, welcome to the inevitable march of time.
It's like trying to play. It's like trying to play and understand the references in Gex in 2024.
I'm like, Gex has come up from my program. Yeah. Anyway, so putting that aside, let's see. In terms of what's going on, there's honestly not all that much this week in terms of a major story. So it's a lot of little. It's like, for example, apparently the Star Wars: The Acolyte is coming in at $180 million. Season 1 is 8 episodes long, 30 minutes per episode, and it took 4 years to make. I mean, I guess that's handy to know, but that's also why so many entertainment companies are having such shaky finances now.
Right.
Because they're spending $200 million on a television show.
This is one of the challenges. This is one of the challenges I was talking about. In the Orville group, they were like, oh yeah, it's like, I don't understand why they're dragging their feet on making season 4. And it's like, well, season 3 cost well over $100 million, and it was made exclusively for streaming.
Well, it's also sci-fi has always been expensive. Like even back in like the 90s.
It's expensive and a hard sell because it's not still to this day not quite mainstream. No matter how many millions of people tuned in for season 5 of Star Trek Discovery or whatever on Paramount Plus.
Like, it's gotten
Star
better
Trek
in
is
recent
arguably
years, but it's still not.
Star Trek is arguably one of the few mainstream sci-fi things. I mean, it also depends on how you want to view Star Wars, because some people consider Star Wars sci-fi. It's really not. It's science fantasy.
Yeah.
Right. Or you could just call it fantasy, because really there's very little science involved in it, other than it
Some people, for some reason, fantasy rules out taking place in outer space.
Yeah.
Well, when you say fantasy, yeah, right, but unfortunately, fantasy has just kind of become shorthand for ye medieval time.
Right.
I'm not saying that's right, but when somebody says fantasy, you're thinking of Tolkien, elves, hobbits, and all that shit. More often than not. So, that's what,
Right. As I was saying with the Orville example, I was pointing out, I said, this series cost in excess of $100 million. They put out 10 episodes, and it's a niche piece, a very well done niche piece. And it deserves every bit of love that it gets. But, as a lost leader, as a tent pole for Hulu, I can't I can't make that argument. I just can't make that argument. So even though it was like the #1 show when it was running, and a huge streaming audience, it's just there's not a lot of merchandising tie-in, and streaming is hemorrhaging cash right now, and they need not only certified winners, but things that actually bring new people to the table. And it's hard. It's a hard sell when the majority of the people are people who are already there.
And especially just monetizing streaming is hard, because it's a subscription revenue thing.
Right. I mean,
Where-
Hulu still has ads.
Yeah.
You know, Paramount Plus has ads if you don't go for the ad-free version of it. So, you know, they do get some trickle of revenue from that kind of stuff, but it's a hard sell. You know, you can't take $100 million plus sci-fi blockbuster, you know, that's basically 10 mini motion pictures per season, with those kinds of salaries, and just expect them to renew it at the drop of a hat. You know, especially with everything that was going on between all the mergers and acquisitions with Disney and the streaming landscape in general. You know, it was just an unrealistic expectation to just assume that they were, oh yeah, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. It's like they don't have action figures, they don't have a theme park ride, you know. Soundtrack sales are not exactly trending on Spotify or Pandora
They could do
or
ship
anywhere else.
models, but that's never as big of a market as actual toys.
It was something that Fox never really explored. I think they didn't take it all that seriously at the beginning, and that hurt them ultimately. But all I'm saying is that's kind of like, you know, if you want to take a razor sharp look at a macroscopic problem, this show is kind of like the perfect example, because it's something that's well done, that's beloved, but you know, they're not going to just run into it. So, you know, this thing you're describing with the Acolyte, and it compares very easily, because it's I don't know. I've lost the plot. Move on.
Anyway,
I think you understood my point, but I was trying to find an ending hook there, and it wasn't coming.
well,
It wasn't forthcoming.
and moving on, jump off to this conversation is the current box office, as I think we've had the lowest box office, like the lowest Memorial Day box office in 40 years, coming off of Furiosa and the Garfield movie as the headliners.
I wonder how this could have happened. Looks at camera.
Furiosa had potential, but Garfield I'm not so sure about.
I've heard that neither of these is actually like bad, and in fact Furiosa is quite good, but yeah, they're not like things that everybody's going to drop everything to run out and go see.
I mean, the Garfield movie seems to succeed at what it aims to do, and that is entertain children. Like, I think people have expectations where they shouldn't be, because, like, the Garfield movie is Garfield, not the next Pixar film.
Well, I think a lot of people were worried that it would be somehow offensive to their sensibilities of...
Well, I think they're also thinking of the Bill Murray movies as well,
which were extremely well done. And Bill Murray was excellent casting.
Right. Like, so.
However, that brings me to the elephant in the room. Does Chris Pratt have to headline every fucking animated film in existence now?
Apparently, yes.
I'm not happy about it either. But at least Garfield is something that's like in line with his basic voice. Like kind of dopey.
Adam.
Anyway, so right now there's two competing narratives to explain the whole. Three, depending on how misogynistic you want to get.
Oh dear.
But, you know, like the YouTube outrage grifter complex is, well, exactly that. And doesn't have any merit in actual reality. You know, it's like, no, Furiosa didn't bomb because it starred a woman or anything like that. Like, guys, we've had plenty of these by 2024. It's like, stop trying to sell that any sort of women-led action movie vehicle is new and interesting in and of itself. Like, seriously, I think you could go back to 40, maybe even 50 years with this. You know,
some people just haven't been satisfied with a movie since the age of the Bond movies, where every time Sean Connery, every movie had at least one lady that Sean Connery slept with, and then she died.
Anyway.
Not literally true, but
actually, it is literally true. In virtually every Bond movie, there was 2 Bond girls. One who lived at
There's
the end
3.
of the movie, and one.
There are 3 Bond girls. There's actually a formula for this, where like the first Bond girl dies, the second Bond girl is evil, and the third one is the one who resists the advances, but it will actually be the actual love interest. Yeah. Anyway, so the actual narratives are, streaming is killing the box office, which, fair enough, it kind of is, but not necessarily for the blockbuster set. And the other one is, maybe the superhero fatigue narrative of last year was a bit premature. I'm not saying that there wasn't any merit to that, because you did have a lot of faltering superheroes last year. But, this year, you'll notice we have a conspicuous lack of superheroes, especially since we're only getting, like, 1 Marvel movie this year, no DC. Like, superheroes are on the backbench. You got your wish, but apparently that's a bit of a monkey's paw. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, we do have a number of Marvel series coming out this year on streaming.
Right, but those aren't movies. Those aren't things that are premiering in a theater, necessarily.
Right. Yeah, this is the first time since Iron Man, really, that they've had such a limited slate in the theaters.
Yep.
And Iron Man did also kind of get bookended with the Incredible Hulk, so.
Right. Still, I don't think anyone was going to seriously argue that Marvel wasn't getting overexposed with just all of the content.
Yeah.
But, and of course DC is now doing a complete revamp of their universe.
Right.
So, we're not putting up with any...
Is it again or still?
Technically again, because last year we had the final bits of the old DCEU. Aquaman 2, The Flash, Blue Beetle. Those all came out last year. You probably forgot. But they did come out. They all performed terribly.
I don't know what they were expecting. They were expecting there. We knew full well that continuity was coming to an end, and they were just stuck, committed to those movies. And I'm like, don't pin all your hopes and dreams on it, because this ain't it.
Yeah, it's literally sunk cost fallacy.
Yeah.
So
that sums up nicely.
Yeah. I'm like, and I think Deadpool and Wolverine are coming out in,
towards the end of June, right?
Yeah, something like that. I mean, I haven't been paying too much attention.
I want to see it, but
yeah. Speaking of Disney, they also premiered the trailer for Moana 2 today. Response seems to be, why wasn't this a television show?
Ooh.
Apparently.
That's actually
going to be.
Before we stray too far away from the superhero stuff, it should be worthy of noting that during the break, Bob Iger did announce that they were changing the way the Marvel cinematic universe is going to work to where the MCU is going to be the MCU label is going to be applied specifically to the motion pictures released in the theaters, and then they're reviving Marvel Television Studios to handle the streaming / TV stuff.
I don't know how that's going to work out, since Marvel Television was attached to Marvel Comics proper. Like, it was the whole deal with the battle between Kevin Feige and Ike Puttermutter.
Perlmutter, you mean?
Yeah, Perlmutter, yeah.
Puttermutter. It sounds like a good insult.
Like, you're assuming that I really care about getting his name. Like, I don't. Like, also worth noting, I'm not sure if we mentioned it, but I think we did, but he did lose his proxy fight with the other investor. And speaking of which, that guy, he's out at Disney, as in he's cashed out all his shares, and he's gone.
Oh wow!
He's the guy who, very infamously said, "Why does Marvel need black characters?" or something along those lines.
Wow!
Like, why does? Yeah, basically, why does Marvel need racial and sexual diversity? Because that's what makes money these days. Like,
but Adam, if you go woke, you go broke, right?
I'm not even going to dignify that. It's so stale.
I literally live with people who keep spouting that, and I hate it.
If it was not evident that was sarcasm from my tone, I don't know what to tell you.
I know, I'm just so sick of that.
It's such a false narrative. It's such a false narrative. It goes beyond hyperbole. Nothing has gone broke because it went woke. Nothing has gone broke because of diversity. If it failed, it was because of a lot of different market factors. But I don't understand how people just existing equals controversy. That's the part that's always been that's the part that's always been baffling in all of this. It's like, so it's like the internet is a giant He-Man woman haters club from the Little Rascals.
Yep.
But you can replace woman hater with literally anybody who isn't white and male.
Right. Anyway, so I think that's about it for this week. Like I said, it's just kind of a light time.
Yeah.
Anyway,
all right, so let's see what we got going here. So next week on episode 2, we have Inside the Studio. What happened? That shifted. Was there something else there?
I got a notification from what was supposed to be next week's guest, literally during the broadcast, saying he wouldn't be able to make it anytime in June.
Bummer.
So that's been pushed to mid-July at the very least.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we'll have somebody in that place. There's still a week to go, but since this literally just happened, like 15, 30 minutes ago, it's Inside the Studio.
Okay. Well, unless something changes, and of course, watch our Twitter X feeds, my TikToks, whatever. If anything comes up and I hear about it, I will definitely announce something about it. But I guess we'll have a nice casual week next week. So when Kevin comes back, we'll have to find some subject that will get him going, so we can add some entertainment value to the program.
Well, I'm sure he can regale us with his time at MomoCon.
Would also work. Yep. Yeah, that was a great show, and I'd like to extend a special thanks to our season premiere guest, James Ronald of Epic Game Music. And we learned a lot of new and interesting things there. Definitely check out his channel on YouTube, and we'll look forward to hearing what he comes up with in the future.
And for everybody who's still hanging out on Twitch, I'm going to be rating Vivi. She's a VTuber who is also a variety streamer, and she's currently playing Hades. So if anybody wants to hang around for that, go give her a follow after I give you a raid, and so on and so forth.
And as far as the TalkShoe and aggregate system out there, we will be continuing to evolve this process as I figure out what works and what doesn't work going into the future. And as I improve my internet situation, we may also be simulcasting to other places such as Kick and Trovo and DLive and so on and so forth. So again, be looking for announcements as our technology changes and improves. And we'll try to deliver the best experience possible. But that's it for this week, folks. So thanks for tuning in. And of course, I am your host, Mac Paladin. Stay safe. Thanks for watching and stay safe out there. That's my sign off.